Let's take a closer look at all this, and joining us to discuss is Inaki Martinez Soria. He is a political analyst and the founder of eWire. It's good to see you again.
Hello, Sean. Good night. Good to see you again.
You know, I thought that was an excellent story, and he outlined a lot of stuff there I kind of want to dig into. Well, firstly, Argentina is gorgeous. Everybody knows that. There's lots to see, lots to do, but it is going through this nightmare that has been with ridiculously high inflation and a host of other issues. So, despite what we heard, do you think people are planning to go there, or are they just embracing, or do you think that tourism is really falling off, or is it the neighboring countries where they could go and spend less money?
Well, Sean, I think it's a combination of factors, both circumstantial and long-term. Argentina was an extremely cheap destination in the past few years, not only because the country was low in terms of prices, but also because tourists in particular could benefit from our over 15 rates, differential exchange rates that we had. So you could come to Argentina with a foreign currency, and you could get a price for that currency that was twice what the government would give you if you spend with your credit card. The government tried to stave off that behavior, offering a series of financial incentives to spending it with credit card or other digital means. But now that the crawling peg has sort of stabilized the currency situation, that the peso is strengthening, that the foreign rates are lowering, and also that Argentina has initiated a very ambitious fiscal amnesty proposal for its taxpayers. All these factors come together to generate an unusual situation in which Argentina has become really expensive, not only for foreign tourists, but also for Argentines that are living here. So the result of this is that obviously, as expected, not only there's a lower rate of foreign tourists, particularly the ones that are used to a low degree of consumption, what you would call the backpackers, to put it in a name. But also you have the competing trend, which is for Argentines, it is becoming, as it has throughout our history multiple times, it is becoming increasingly cheaper to travel abroad and to live abroad and to purchase goods abroad. So this is something that the government will certainly have to fix, because it will compete with the macroeconomic stabilization that the government is trying to achieve, and the very much needed U.S. foreign currency reserves that the country needs in order to affront its...
Inaki, I kind of want to back up just a second, because it sounds like what you're telling me, the measures that Javier Milei, the president, is putting in place, while painful, are necessary. So these are pains, perhaps short-term, perhaps long-term, that the country is going through with all these various valuations of various currencies. That's, from an outsider, it seems like it's no way to run a country.
Yeah, I've tried to explain it to my foreign friends, the Americans in particular. The Swiss, for example, don't really understand it. There's this sort of two contending forces, right? In order for Argentina to sell its goods abroad, to have exports and everything, it needs a cheap peso. It needs the dollar, for the dollar to be strong, so that people and companies will come and invest and get goods from here. On the other hand, a very expensive dollar, a very expensive peso favors the reduction of inflation, which got to 25.5% last December. Now it's currently sitting in the last month at 3.5%.
Wow.
So the government is, it has achieved a lot, but there's still a long road ahead. 3.5 a month is still very high. And we must remember that Argentina has severe restrictions in terms of currency controls, particularly for foreign investors in companies and regular people. And these measures are really damaging to the economy and our productivity in the world stage.
Right.
So it's not a matter of if, but when the government will implement the continued package of reforms that will allow to finally, for Argentina to emerge in the global stage as a provider of goods, and also to be realistic, for us to live within our means.
Okay, Inaki, for those of us who don't have a degree in economics and understand how that nation is working, you talked about the backpackers, they're the digital nomads, if you will. There's a lot of different kind of people who come to Argentina for tourism. So how are local travelers coping with inflation, and have you seen a shift in the travel patterns?
Yes, certainly you can see now a reemergence of foreign tourism, which in the last few years had become a little bit prohibitive for the Argentine traveler. This is something that it's not new. It has happened throughout our history. Whenever the peso strengthens, Argentines tend to travel abroad because also the options within Argentina become really expensive. The past administration also had implemented a series of tourism incentive packages that tried to not only bring foreign tourists, but also to incentive Argentine tourists to spend their holidays and their free time within Argentina. And of course, at that moment, it also meant that Argentines had to compete with foreign tourists for services in Argentina. But now everything is becoming really expensive. So I am very aware that multiple, particularly those touristic cities and areas around the country, like in Patagonia, like in the Northeast, waterfalls and everything, they are really asking the government to push forward a series of measures that would allow to compensate for that drop caused fundamentally by the currency situation.
So let's pick up a bit on that, because in researching this story, you could find stories right next to each other. It said tourism suffering in Argentina. Right next to one, tourists are lining up to come to Argentina. I mean, there's a lot of information out there. Granted, it's a wonderful place to go to, and I'm sure it's cheaper than a lot of others. So what strategies are hotels, restaurants, tour operators using to manage the costs and still appeal to visitors?
Well, that's a really great question for the hoteliers, Sean. I am aware that as the whole of the Argentine economy, hotels and restaurants and else are trying to keep prices down, which is something new for Argentina, since as I said, it was usual for prices to rise even not only once a month but even every week, and of course naturally that they have to confront the situation that they do not only have to compete against other domestic touristic options, but also foreign options. So I guess that we still need to see what happens in the summer, which is particularly the season in which Argentines most move on. Summer, of course, in Argentina, it's between December and March. I guess that we need to see how the numbers perform and how everything shows. But it is looking that increasingly like it's going to be a tough season, and now it's the only strategy available is to keep costs down and to try to translate that into lower prices for the Argentine consumer.